20 minutes of practice access today and not yet full pads per NCAA rules for practice number 3 of training camp 2025. I'm Tim O'Malley, joined today by Tim Prister of Irish Illustrated, John Brice of FootballScoop. And guys, we did see a little bit of one-on-one action, I think, in segment 3. There was tight ends going against safeties. There was running backs going against linebackers. But, of course, we're not tackling to the ground yet in Notre Dame's practice. JB, you spent some time watching the offense today. What were some of your impressions and who stood out a little bit?
Yeah, and I will get on those one-on-ones in just a moment. But one thing TP and I both noticed today, Ashton Craig just looks good, and he looks way more powerful. I heard Coach Rob Delaney, the assistant O-line coach, giving him some compliments as he was doing some snapping drills and then driving the defender back. And he said, look, you gave me 3 yards that time. That's what I wanted. But I'm going to ask you for more the next time because I'm going to keep raising the bar for you. I think when you hear a coach saying that mid-practice after a great rep, it tells you they have some pretty high expectations. One-on-ones, the DBs won the day very early, and then I thought the wide receivers started making some more plays. The quarterbacks started delivering the ball better. I know that C.J. Carr, almost called him David, C.J. Carr had a really nice left sideline throw. He also had a perfect timing route toward the near sideline where we were as media, so the east sideline on the practice field.
And Tim Prister, we spoke with Chris Ash today and Jaywan Sider, and I kind of joked with you. Jaywan Sider, I felt Jaywan Sider in the spring maybe erred by saying you can't use as many running backs as this group has. He did say, though, the plan is for these guys to all be able to push the room up. And he mentioned Kedron Young in the spring. Guys like that push the room's level of play up when you're at the back end of that rotation. I think Sider is a guy that is going to be kind of insightful for us to listen to this season.
Well, I think so. He was interesting today. I mean, yeah, there are not enough footballs to go around with that backfield. I wanted to bring up Nolan James just to find out what he thought of him, but we were kind of pushed for time and couldn't do that. But you know, when Kedron Young and you know, those kind of guys, and Jabron, well, Aneyas is 3, I guess. So Kedron Young and Jabron Payne are competing for number 4. That's ridiculous wealth. But I thought Jaywan Sider is always interesting when we talk to him. And when you talk to the running backs, you know, Jadarian Price being one in particular, just, you know, talking about big picture stuff that they're learning as running backs. And Sider talked about it. It's not just being a great running back. It's understanding what is happening around you. What's the blocking scheme? When you look at the defense and you see an alignment, you should know that there's a greater chance of a blitz coming from one side or the other. So, you know, I'm not saying that Deland McCullough didn't do that. Deland McCullough is a great running backs coach, but I don't know that we ever got into this kind of specific talk about big picture. And you can know what you can be better prepared for what's going to happen based upon formations and how you know the play is going to unfold.
Yeah, real quickly, I thought 2 really good questions. One from Drew Mintock, specific to Jadarian Price, to Sider and what he's doing. And he talked about calming his feet down. I thought Sider gave a really insightful answer about how slow to the mesh, fast through the hole. And then Jack Sobel asked him about how he can have his running backs help a young quarterback who's going to be a first-time starter. And I thought Sider's answer was brilliant to that, talking about his own days as a quarterback and how he's teaching those guys to see what the quarterback is seeing and that they might have to call out protections or that they might have to call out, hey, we're about to get edge pressure. Here's what's coming. And so, you know, you heard Sider already. He's 6-7 months into the program. You can tell he is immersed in the Marcus Freeman culture because he very naturally talked about team glory and just about the fact that his running backs have an obligation to make the quarterback's job better. And then I mentioned this the other day. I'm going to throw it out there again. He is the same guy who told his running backs the other day at practice, Tim, we're the Secret Service. We're the last line of defense. Nobody touches the quarterback, and nobody touches the quarterback.
Yeah, I wish Drew Mintock had that question before I wrote my Jadarian Price feature on Thursday because it was about Jadarian Price is a home run hitter. Deland McCullough said he occasionally will pat his feet. You can't occasionally pat your feet if Aneyas Williams and Kedron Young are coming up behind you because for all the big plays he made, and those count too, I want to stress this, those 70-yard runs count for touchdowns. They're very important. You can't have more inefficient runs than efficient runs probably when you're in a backfield this deep. Jaywan Sider walked into a nice situation. Sure, in the Notre Dame running backs room. So did Chris Ash. He joined one of the 2 best defenses in the country last year. I do think he's starting to make it his own, and it was a good conversation to have with him where it's finally not, like he said, all the right things in the spring. But at some point, you are now in control of the defense.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I realize that he hasn't been in college football, but that's an experienced defensive guy. And, yeah, I think he's really adapted well. And he did say all the right things. And he continues to say all the right things. But there's no doubt he's going to put his own touch on this defense. I think that means a little bit more zone defense. I don't know if did anybody get into, I'm not sure we got into that
today.
Conversation today. Everything's so quick.
We do get Ash again at the end of August. Yes.
No, I've been really impressed with him. And I think I might have mentioned yesterday in an instant about, Marcus Freeman talking about what a team player that Chris Ash was coming in and is. And that's important. That's camaraderie. We were talking about Arkansas, and there might not be nearly the kind of camaraderie we were talking about at Notre Dame. That's just the culture that Marcus Freeman has built.
And Chris Ash, real quickly, I would say he was asked about rotating safeties and not just specific to Tay Johnson and Luke Talich, but he said, look, guys, I'm never going to put a number on what we're going to rotate. The players will earn it. And so he said it's not just the defensive line. Like, they will rotate if the players earn it. The key word, earn the trust. They'll play all the guys that they trust.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him that question because, look, you got to rotate in defensive linemen, even if there's 2 steps below on occasion in 80 snaps, your best defensive end. You cannot rotate in a safety if he doesn't know exactly what's going on in the back end because, hey, we got to get somebody fresh in there. Well, that's a fresh touchdown that just got scored in those situations. So I find it intriguing. I wanted to talk about, I watched the defense today and I watched the safeties because you can't look out on the field anymore. If you've covered Notre Dame for these years and look at the defensive backs, the giant change, no pun intended, in their length, size, and ability to move on the back end. When you look at Christian Gray as the 5th or 6th most imposing physical athlete out there, that's insane. Jadon Blair is all of 6'5.5". You guys have talked all about Tay Johnson. I've been reading the practice reports when I wasn't here. Leonard Moore looks better than all of them when you're looking around out there. And it is incredible what Marcus Freeman and Mike Mickens have done to upgrade that group. It's a stark contrast. They had good safeties in the past. Like, people forget, Alohi Gilman was very good. Jalen Elliott was very good. These guys have NFL looks about them.
I think and that's why we tried so hard to put perspective on day one where there were some interceptions. This is a elite college secondary going against some young quarterbacks. And, Mike Denbrock talked about the catastrophic mistakes that were made in day one. That's what secondaries create. Now, of course, 4 weeks from tomorrow, they can't make those catastrophic mistakes, and I understand. But you also have to understand they're going against a secondary with maybe the best defensive back coach in the country teaching them. They are very elite right now. And that, in the long run, 4 weeks from tomorrow, that will benefit whichever young quarterback starts against Miami.
I think he is the best defensive backs coach in the country, and I think we'll learn more about this in the coming weeks. Mike Mickens has spent a lot of time this summer making himself an even better coach. He's clinicked individually with a lot of coaches that I think is only going to enhance a guy who is already a great coach. And then Luke Talich back there looks good. I mean, when we talk about rotating safeties,
he's the 6th most impressive athlete looking out there.
And he's now 6'3", 210. Like, he's leaned out, he's moving, he's more sudden. Like, they just have a lot of bodies in, and I've talked about it. The depth on this team is just so vastly superior to even where it was 4 years ago when Marcus Freeman arrived. It really resonates with me how much that they're able to do. One thing we didn't get to ask today that maybe we should think about asking for the future, and that is, when we talk about defensive rotations, how much does the green dot help? How much more can you potentially rotate or feel comfortable rotating because you're communicating directly to your Mike linebacker or whoever's wearing the green dot headset mic?
Tim, I want to jump in. Excuse me, but I want to jump in here because I don't want us to run out of time here. I want to talk about,
like in the interviews, you should run out of time once in a while.
Exactly. I just want to talk about Jeremiyah Love and the person off the field that he has become, the level of humility and maturity and eloquence, was it after the Purdue game when
he kept saying shoot?
Yeah, when he had difficulty, just communicating. He's a young kid. He had difficulty communicating. The distance that he has traveled off the field and his ability to handle his stardom. It was brought up about him, being a Heisman Trophy candidate. And look, I've been doing this for a long time, and some guys can fool you in what they're saying. I don't think Jeremiyah Love is fooling us when he says, look, the Heisman Trophy, if I have an opportunity to compete for it or win it, that's great. But I'm worried about the process and getting better individually and us getting better as a team. I'm so impressed with Jeremiyah Love on the field. It's impossible not to be, but I think off the field, he's come a million miles. Really, really proud of the way that he represents our alma mater, Tim.
I think that the best way to say it for Love, and he spoke to this even before last year, he wants to be fresh for the national championship game. He wins the Heisman along the way, that's great because that goes on your record forever. Mm-hmm. I think they realize what a national championship means for Notre Dame, and when you get that close, it's tough. I want to wrap up. We have practice reports at irishillustrated.com. I followed the defense today. Jordan Botelho, we don't know if he's ahead of schedule or not. Somebody asked Chris Ash, he looks ahead of schedule. He goes, frankly, I don't know. And if I did know, I wouldn't tell you, which is a funny response by
Yes.
Chris Ash. But Jordan Botelho is working on the sled, not full pads. They're not in full pads. He was dressed as were all the other players. And at one point, he was using just his right arm to push on assistant strength and conditioning coach Fred Hale. You could tell he was working on that. And what we're going to want to see is when he starts using that left arm. But he looks, I'm not a doctor, I'm not Chris Ash, he looks ahead of schedule. Jordan Botelho, I would have thought early November. I don't see why if a guy is going this hard, he's not early October with that injury.
And Chris Ash with a couple of funny one-liners today. That one on Botelho, the other one being when he was asked about the fact that Marcus Freeman has said, make this Chris Ash's defense. And he laughed and said, well, yeah, he's saying that in case it goes wrong, all the blame's on me. So it was a good lighthearted moment from Ash, who really held court today.
We won't be out here for a few more days, but there will be practice reports there already are practice reports posted at Irish Illustrated. So we'll have about 4 more days of the written word from the interviews we had today. And of course, our Irish Illustrated podcast tomorrow. Until then, for Tim Prister of Irish Illustrated, John Brice of FootballScoop, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thanks for watching Irish Illustrated Instant Analysis.
Monday podcast.
What did I say? Tuesday? That's wrong. Monday podcast. Why would we do it on Tuesday? Thanks for watching.